Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and we're joined by economic analyst John Sneisen, and we're going to go into the TSX today, and more notably the Canadian economy and the markets in Canada as well, because obviously we haven't gotten a chance to really break this down since this whole COVID pandemic nonsense happened since the beginning of this year. The manipulation is insane, and in my opinion, the Canadian stock market is indeed doomed. But first, we're going to go and look at the charts right here. We have the TSX Composite Index at 16,220. As I record, it's only down 0.16% today. We see that major move around the beginning of the year when the COVID stuff came to realization, and we saw it crash like a rock. And I have a hard time believing, outside of the usual speculation, that this is anything less than a huge market manipulation. We have an article by Motley Fool here that says, Canadian stock market, will the TSX index continue to soar? So let's talk about that, John. Is it going to continue to soar? Because all I see is just vast manipulation and basically doomsday on the horizon here. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, stop fear-mongering. But I mean, let's be real here. We're in the middle of the greatest global depression in the history of the world, and we're going to expect that the markets are going to go up while everyone's getting wiped out of their jobs, while businesses are getting wiped out. Oh yeah, the stock market sure is going to move up on that news. Obviously not. So John, what do you think of is the Canadian stock market, is the TSX going to continue to soar?
It's interesting how they talk about soaring. When you actually look at the 5-year or even 10-year chart, Josh, it becomes pretty apparent that the actual stock market's been staying pretty stagnant here in Canada. I haven't done nothing for the last decade, basically. It's the last decade since 2009. But when you look at the actual, the dip there, unless you bought right at the bottom of that dip, March, April, I think it was, right? You are at basically zero or nothing. So it hasn't really done anything. And of course, here in Canada, it's ridiculous. I've been covering this for a while now with working on my Discord channel with Tim and a couple of Tim and John shows. And we've been talking about, the monetary insanity in Canada, because Canada has, you say never go full commie. Well, they basically have. What they've done, they basically their balance sheet increased 400% of the central bank. They bought provincial bonds, corporate bonds, government bonds. They bought a whole bunch of wide array of little tidbits here and there of other debt tools, whatever they can find. But mostly it was actually repo operations that just skyrocketed back in, I think it was March or April, when the banks were insolvent. And they still are at the same level. They've barely gone down. And that's repurchase operations, of course, which is overnight lending. And that is how corporations and banks actually survive, by lending overnight to each other. And of course, in September 19th, with the Federal Reserve, they had to intervene in the market because interest rates just, went from 2-3% up to 10%. At nighttime. Well,
and that's the thing, though, John, because a lot of us have done a lot of work exposing the insanity of how the Fed is buying up bonds and obviously hugely manipulating the stock market with trillions of dollars. And we haven't really gotten to paint a good picture of how Canada has been manipulating the markets and completely, it's all spoofing. It's all spoofing. I mean, what can you go into with that? As far as, you mentioned, they're buying up corporate bonds, provincial bonds. How is that finding its way over to the stock market?
Well, not too much of that, but what you got to remember, they have a massive bailout of the corporations here in Canada. They bailed out, all the major crowns, every other corporation that's big here. So those will eventually, of course, make a move into stock market, because that's actually money that the corporations get, free money that, of course, been taken off their balance sheets kind of thing and then moved to the government's balance sheets. You're just shifting debt from one place to another. But it's still debt, actually. A lot of those loans and everything that are here in programs similar to what the United States has, all that money has to get paid back at one point. It's never going to get paid back, of course, because 30% of Canadian businesses are looking or are close to bankruptcy, basically right now. And so if you think that you're going to recover out of that, you're totally insane. Of course, now, when we're down and we're getting beaten up, of course, it's funny how Bill Morneau got kicked out of office.
He got replaced by another complete moron.
Well, it's basically you had a moron that knew a little bit, got replaced with a moron that knows nothing.
Well, and it's funny because we confronted Bill Morneau, the former Finance Minister of Canada, many years ago. We got a lot of flack for it at the time. You know, we called him out for selling off all of Canada's gold and trying to make Canada into Venezuela, and his attempt to create or help in creating a global currency, which 3 days later he went to the Bilderberg Group meeting and met with them. Very interesting how that worked. We got a lot of flack about it at the time. Same with my confrontations of Justin Trudeau and people like Harjit Sajjan, the Defense Minister of Canada. And obviously now push has come to shove and people notice that these people are scumbags. So luckily, it has come around full circle. You're unpopular for a bit of time until you're proven right. But with that said, so we have a stock market that is incredibly manipulated. Obviously, it's held up on just foolishness. It doesn't even make sense. John, going forward, how long can it be put off? Because there's no saying how much central planning they really can do to prop up a problem they created.
No, well, of course, like the stock market in Canada is heavily reliant on oil, right? So Canada is a massive commodity country, and of course, when supply when demand drops like a rock, basically, some countries have had, South Africa, 52% down GDP, which is totally insane. Anywhere here, look at the United States or Canada, like 30 or 12% official, right? That's completely insane. Of course, because you need inflation. So if they don't get that, the whole Ponzi system collapses. Now, what's going to happen next is, of course, there's some aspects of Canadian stocks. Of course, they have all the precious metal mining companies are on the TSX. So that's kind of like what probably, leveled up a little bit. But you still have an issue here in Canada where they basically have gone, full Venezuela almost, where, we had the SURB program, which basically, like so many people here that I've heard of, and my wife had some employees that basically went on SURB because they made more going on the, unemployment programs through COVID. And there's still, tons of people that have gone on that and just sitting on that doing nothing because they're just getting free money. Meanwhile, actually, savings in Canada has skyrocketed. It's gone from 3% up to 28% in savings right now, like the measurement that they have. And another thing is that they're paying down debt. So the problem here, Josh, is I think we're starting to see like a creation and a move towards what happened in Weimar Republic. In Weimar Republic, they had a huge financial collapse. Everything went down, but then people started to save money. And then after a while, when they saved up money and they finally felt safe to start using it again, there was so much built up energy and money. And as soon as that velocity picked up, hyperinflation started, because all that money is going to move into the markets and create, heavy inflation with all this free money everywhere, basically here in Canada. Now they're looking at, like I listened yesterday to Josh, they were talking, Freeland was talking about, green bonds and all this stuff. And I assume that, we're going to look at maybe 200-300 and more billions on top of the 343 billion official that they are in debt. And of course, the debt levels here in Canada has jumped from 2018, it was 642. Now the official number is $1.8 trillion.
It's insane. It's actually it's literally competing against the United States 10 years ago. And the United States is a far bigger country. So the very notion of this is absolutely incredible. What this means going forward means that Canadians are in a lot of danger of the obvious consequences of central planning. And this is why we talk for so many years here at WAM about preparing and, being overly prepared rather than underprepared. We saw what happened when people were underprepared, like we said all those years. This year, when toilet paper flew off the shelves, there's no toilet paper. No one knew what to do, and no one knew what to buy either. So they're buying toilet paper, but not food. Luckily, we did see a lot of people go and buy flour and stuff like that. But for the most part, they had no idea what they're doing. They're getting freezer foods and stuff like that.
I was ready for 3.5-4 months of this shit.
Yeah.
And of course, now you're looking at we're still kind of now it looks like, of course, the Trudeau and all these guys are just drooling at another tyrannical grab now with COVID cases.
It's power. Why would they relent it? I mean, at the end of the day, I believe this is probably going to last 2 years with the COVID stuff, or at least some kind of
right?
Yeah. And then after that, 2 years from now, not from the beginning, from now, guys, sorry to say. And then after that, it's going to take 10-15 years to recover from the economic consequences. But not just that. I mean, there's civil wars coming up. There's world wars that we're on the verge of. And it's not fear-mongering. We literally see that being played out right in front of our eyes, and we haven't been wrong. We've been reporting on this since the beginning of WHAM, and people called us crazy all those years. And look at all the things we said that came true. And if people still want to say we're crazy, fine, don't prepare. But I urge you, even if you think we're being ridiculous, just be prepared, because you have we're in the eye of the storm. We're literally in a very tyrannical, not a great eye of the storm, but we're in the eye of the storm.
The whole globe is under a storm. I don't know what we can even call that.
Yeah, like it's prison planet. It's a prison planet. But you have a few opportunities now to actually go out and prepare again. I mean, it really is important, and it's important not just for you, but for your family. You have to lead the pack, not be succumbing to the slavery that they're trying to enforce on us, and be, it's better to die on your feet than on your knees. But anyway, going forward, obviously millions of people are looking at homelessness. Millions of people. We're looking possibly at 10% of the country ending up homeless once the moratoriums expire, which they will eventually. They have to.
Here in Canada as well. Yeah. Like the United States has that, but here as well, they actually forward them to cover people until the end of this year.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, and in the U.S. it's about 28 million, so it's like 9 out of 100 people are facing homelessness, 40%. And it'll be more so after the fact.
About 40%.
But well, and then in Canada it's huge, and it's possibly worse in Canada because of Canada being a commie, what hole.
About the debt levels. How many times have we talked and warned about the debt levels? I wrote a book on it, warning about the debt levels, and here we are, with almost 3 times more debt now soon, where we were. And it's we've gone monetary insane. And as I said, we've gone Venezuela. And I don't think there's any way out. You might actually see the TSX skyrocket and just take off. Like right now in Venezuela, they have a second hyperinflation. On the second currency. Sorry for laughing, it's horrible. But I think maybe that's where we're moving towards here, because there's no way out of this whole thing that basically it's the belief that we talked about a lot of times, where Ben Bernanke came out and said in 2002, the printing presses will always defeat deflation. Well, it's like the problem is it beats it, but it destroys the purchasing power. And then it was an article that I just read, Josh, that was talking about, there's too many poor people in the United States. And then, of course, you had the Fed just recently coming out that we are fighting inequality. And, and basically the Federal Reserve is creating the inequality. When they print currency, they devalue your life savings. And the same here in Canada, when our government and central bank is creating money, it devalues and it steals from you every single time that they do this. And it's a blatant, rape and pillage, basically, like the Vikings did back in the day. It's just done by people in suits at, behind counters in Ottawa and at the Bank of Canada.
Yeah, don't expect these guys to relent their power. They benefit from the power more than anything. That's what literally is a heartbeat of government, is more and more control. The more control they get, the more powerful they are. Why on earth would they give that up? And they, of course, won't. And they will continue to grow in power and scope as long as you guys sit on your hands and allow it to happen. You are only as free as you allow yourself to be. You're only as free as the freedom you defend. And that comes down to you, no one else. So stop offloading your responsibility, your freedom, they're synonymous, on government, because government will only pillage it and push you further into poverty, push you further into dependence. And that's the dependence that they want. It's something that we said all along since the beginning of WHAM. And here we are. These times are moving fast, and I guarantee you the second wave or third wave really, of the lockdowns will happen even faster, and you won't even see it coming. It's going to sideswipe you, and next thing you know, you won't be able to walk down the street by yourself without a mask on. You won't be able to go to the store without a vaccine. You won't be able to blah, 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 social credit scores, technocracy, all that stuff.
Australia, right? Like it's a prison island again.
Yeah, and if you make a post on Facebook, the police come to your house. I mean,
it's utterly insane, and this is the logic behind government, of course. Like when we're going to look at these numbers in the future, Josh, we're going to see probably almost double or even more, maybe, people that have died from the government, interventions rather than from actually the disease that's called COVID-19. So it just baffles me that we still trust these institutions and we're bound down to them. Well, the problem is we're basically broke if we didn't, because they shut down the whole freaking economy. And so there's no way out of it other than, coming and begging to the government for the solution to the problem that they created in the first place.
Absolutely. So anyway, let's wrap this up. As always, hit that like button, share on social media to get around the shadow banning, and check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar. We are completely viewer funded here at WHAM, as we are completely demonetized. Also join us on the alternative platforms like Flote.app, LBRY, BitChute, Minds, all of those, all linked below. You could join our newsletter at www.iambanned.com. And of course, you can get the PFT Privacy Protector if you want to save your testes from the radiation of your phone, as well as save you from the surveillance of the government, which is very necessary going forward. So the PFT Privacy Protector is linked below, and you can get that. It's a fair day. I really highly recommend it. Dan has done a lot of research into finding the best materials for the PFT Privacy Protector.
Say something about that, but I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, but with that said, anyway, also you can get John's books, of course, The End of Freedom, How Our Monetary System Enslaves Us, and Canada, the Greatest Economy in the World, ? Also linked below, and there's many other things, so check those links, Teespring, etc. We need you guys to help now more than ever, because we have very limited time left on YouTube. They're kind of ripping us apart, and if we just go to the other platforms like Flote and LBRY and BitChute and Minds and these places, that will keep independent media alive. It's more crucial than ever. While Julian Assange is being tortured to death in a cage for spreading free information online, guess what's going to happen to the rest of us too that aren't as big name as Julian Assange? We're just going to disappear. You'll never hear from us again. So please go and support us there.
Well, yeah, just one last thing. I think we come to the period of what's not called too big to fail anymore, that the government fixates on. It's too big to exist, and it's about the governments and corporations that are zombies, that are living off of debt to pay down, like to basically pay shareholders and all this stuff. We just live in a debt slave society, and they're just too big to exist, basically.
Absolutely, and eventually it has to go kaboom. Anyway, I appreciate everyone joining us today. I appreciate you joining me, John. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. My friends, it is go time. We are completely demonetized on YouTube, and we depend on the viewer to stay alive and spread the message of freedom and truth. So check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, anything you guys could do to help keep independent media alive helps enormously in helping spread this message to the masses. So make sure to check those links. Donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen or below. We really appreciate anything you could do to keep us alive. You could check those links below for Cointree as well, where you can find other cryptocurrencies that you can donate and keep WHAM alive. Find us on Flote.app, Flote.app, as well as BitChute and LBRY and Minds. We're on all the other platforms. We are leaving YouTube soon, so make sure to find us at those sites, because it's the only way we can keep talking to you, the masses, the great people that actually care about the future of free humanity. Also, join our new newsletter at www.iambanned.com. Anything helps at this point, guys. We need to support free information online. This is the most difficult time in our history, and it takes a lot of hard work to keep our message alive in the face of great evils that have taken over the propaganda news on television as well as on YouTube, where YouTube decides what you can or cannot see. We need your help, my friends. So I really appreciate anything you guys can do. Check those links. There's many ways you can help. Until next time, though, thanks, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.